Alright, here's the second video. We ran out of time on that first one. We just have two more topics to go over, which is domain and range and then graphing points. Those are the last two things on your test. So remember with domain and range, they're going to ask you to state the domain and range of the following graphs. Remember that you can do that in two ways. You can either use interval notation, which remember meaning the brackets, meaning that it doesn't include that. So if there's like an open circle, right? So if this was an open circle instead of a dot, you would want to use a bracket. And then if it does include it, then we're going to be using parentheses. So when we have that closed dot is when we use parentheses. Okay? Also, when we have arrows, which means it's going to keep going, we also use our brackets because there is, or sorry, our parentheses because there is no ending in the infinity. And the other way we can do it is the inequality. So we can write out an inequality with our, so something like if it was going this way, right? So our -1 is the lowest number, so we would just say it's -1, and then it's everything greater than that, so we're going to use that. We're going to use our equal sign because it does include that point. Then we can say x because that's what we're dealing with domain. And then because the arrows are going to keep going this way, we're going to say that it's everything x is greater than or equal to -1, and then it's everything that's less than or equal to, and then we can use that infinity sign because of that. So again, you can either do inequalities or you can do interval notation. It's up to you. I would assume either of those will be probably fill in the blank or a short answer on your test. So let's look at these 4 examples. Try to do the domain and range. Remember, domain is x, range is y. So first we're going to be looking at x, which is our left and right. So we're looking at all the values this way. Okay, so I'm going to draw my lines so that way we can see the values this way that it hits. Now remember, these are just random points. So the way that we're going to write our domain here, so we can say our domain equals, and then we're going to just say our random points. So we have a -4. We have a -2. We have a 1. We have 2 1s, but we're just going to write it once. And then we have a 3. So this would be our domain for this one because it's just a bunch of points. There is no line, so we're not going to use the interval notation. We're just going to state out all the points. Same thing with the range. Only, again, let me change colors so we can see. The range is our left, or our up and down, right? So we're looking at where it's hitting on this up and down axis. So it's hitting there, this one's also hitting there, and this one's hitting there, and this one's hitting there. So highest point down to our lowest point, or we can go lowest to highest. So our lowest point is a -3. Then we have a -2. If we keep going higher, we're going to hit 3 next. If we keep going, we're going to hit 5 next. And again, because it's just points, we're just going to use our braces. Sorry, I'm really bad at drawing those on the computer. Just like that. So that would be our domain and range if we just have points. Okay. If we have dots that are connected but there's no arrows, we're going to use probably the interval notation would be the easiest. So let's see again our domain. So I'm going to skip over to this one. Our domain is left to right. So left, we're going from here all the way over to here because this point and this point are the farthest 2 points. So we can count that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is this is on the negative side. And it is a dot so that it is included. So we're going to say our -6. And then we're going to go through to our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, +6. So that is our domain. And again, those are parentheses because those dots are included. Again, if you wanted to write that with our inequality, we can say that it's everything greater than -6 and everything less than +6. So we can say -6, we can say everything greater than or equal to, and then we can say everything less than or equal to 6. So just like that would be the inequalities. For our range, okay, so again, our range is going to be the highest to the lowest point. So from here to here. Okay, so we're going to see our lowest point is at 1, 2, 3, -3. So we're going to go from -3 to, and then our highest point, I'm assuming that's a 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, perfect. So that's our range. Again, when we want to write that as an inequality, we'll go with our lowest number, which is at -3. We'll go this way. We'll put a y this time since it's a range dealing with y, not x. Then we'll put our other inequality and our 6, just like that. So this is what if it's just random points. This is what it looks like if there's a beginning and an ending part. You don't have to worry about that infinity. Now let's work on these two middle ones. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. So if you need to pause the video. So now we're going to look at these two middle ones. So now this one doesn't have arrows on the end, but it is assumed that if it goes off the screen looking like this, that there are arrows on the end. I will make sure that on the test I use ones that actually do have arrows like this, but we're going to assume that both of these have arrows. So this has arrows and these have arrows. So we know when we see arrows that probably something in our equation is going to deal with infinity. Because when we see arrows, that means it keeps going for forever. It could be the x, could be the y, could be both. So let's talk about that. So here, if I'm looking at my x values, this arrow is going to keep going. So it's going very slowly, but it's going to keep moving out and out and out and out and out. And it's going to keep moving up and up and up and up and up. So this one, doesn't matter which way it's going, those arrows are going to keep going. Which means both the domain and the range are everything. Every number, because it's going to keep going up, it's going to keep going down. It's going to keep going slightly left and slightly right, but it's going to keep going. So for these, my domain and my range. So my domain, again, I can put, let's see. We want to do our brackets because, again, we don't know where the ending is. So we can do negative infinity to positive infinity because it's going to keep going left, it's going to keep going right. Or if we want to write it with our inequalities, I'll show you how to do that with the range because they're going to be the same thing. We can do our negative infinity, and we can do our greater than, less than, our y, and then our less than or equal to, and our infinity. So these are the two ways of writing it. So we can write it like this for both of these, or we can write it like this for both of these. But that, again, is because these are going to keep going in both directions. Your last and final one is this one. So again, we have our domain, we have our range. All right, I'm going to do, again, this one in interval notation and this one in inequality. So left and right, left and right. Over here again, this one, I couldn't draw a line because the arrow says it's going to keep going. There is no arrow on this side, which means this is as far over on the graph as it's going to go. So -1. Whoopsie, let me try that again. -1 is as far over, and that's a parentheses, as it's going to go. But then the arrows keep going this way, so it's not like I can just draw a line right here, because those arrows are going to keep going and keep going, which means it's never going to stop, so it's going to be positive infinity on this side. Okay, so then down here, we want to look at this. Down here, if I'm doing my y values, so let's, oopsie. So then if I'm doing my y values, I want to, again, highest and lowest. Well, again, on this graph, it looks like this is the highest, this is the lowest, but these arrows are going to keep going. So this is going to keep going up, this is going to keep going down, which means my range is going to look exactly like this one, or exactly like this one. So I can put my negative infinity, my inequality, and then all the way through positive infinity. All right, that was domain and range. Took a little bit longer, but again, hopefully you got those questions right. Your very last one, and this should take a very short amount of time, is just writing coordinates. Again, you might be thinking, why are we doing graphing? That's like what we learned earlier in life. But we are going to be doing a lot of graphing of equations in this next chapter. So I just wanted to make sure that you had a foundation of how to graph a point before you have to graph a line and an equation and a curve and all that fun stuff. So over here I have a couple points. We're just going to fill in the blanks. So again, if I'm looking for point O, remember my left and right, my X comes first, my Y comes second. So I want to move left and right first, up and down second. So for O, I'm moving all the way over to -5. So over to -5, up to a +5. So that means I put my left and right first, up and down second. P. Where's P? P is right here. So left and right first, 8, and then I don't have to move up and down at all, which means I moved over 8 and I moved up and down 0. Okay, G, looking for G. G is right here. So I went over 7 and then I went up 8. So I went over 7, up 8. And then last but not least, M, I went over 1 and down 6. So I went over 1 and then down means I'm going -6. And that's it. Hopefully that was a good review. If you need more help, please contact me so that way we can set up an appointment tomorrow. So that way you'll be ready for your test on Thursday.